Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a single process that can literally stop a catastrophic project in its tracks and save companies millions. It's called a feasibility study. And you know what? Understanding it is absolutely crucial for anyone who has to make big decisions.
We've all seen them, right? You know the ones, projects that just burn through tons of time and money only to fail in the most spectacular way. So the big question is, how do you catch these train wrecks before they even leave the station?
And the answer? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. It's not about trying to predict the future with a crystal ball. It's about having a process. It really all boils down to just asking the right questions, right from the very beginning.
Look, a brilliant idea feels amazing. It feels like a guaranteed win. But here's the hard truth. An idea is just the starting line. If you don't vet it properly, even the most promising concept can turn into an incredibly expensive failure. This is where we learn to separate a cool idea from a workable plan.
This is probably the best way to think about it. I mean, you would never ever buy a house without getting an inspection, right? You got to check for a leaky roof or a cracked foundation. A feasibility study does the exact same thing, but for your project idea. It looks for all those critical, hidden flaws before you spend a single dime.
So, let's be super clear about something. This is not just more paperwork or bureaucracy. A feasibility study is a strategic blueprint. It is the tool you use to gather all the intelligence you need to make a smart, data-driven decision about whether or not to actually move forward.
Okay, so here's the formal definition. It's a crucial evaluation that happens right at the beginning during the planning phase of a big project. You see this a lot in software development. Its entire purpose, its whole reason for being, is to figure out if a project is practical, if it's even achievable, and if it's actually worthwhile before you commit serious resources to it.
So, the end goal here is to really analyze the project from every possible angle. It's about assessing the risks, carefully weighing the costs against the potential benefits, and giving leadership the cold, hard data they need to make the right call. And hey, sometimes that means suggesting a totally different solution or even just stopping the project cold.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The study takes that huge kind of scary question of, is this thing worth it, and breaks it down into 6 smaller, critical tests. You can think of them as 6 hurdles that the project idea absolutely must clear to even be considered.
First up, you've got the foundational hurdles. Technical feasibility asks a really simple question. Can we actually build this? Do we have the technology, the right skills on the team? If the answer is no, well, the project is dead on arrival. And right alongside it is economic feasibility. This is the classic show me the money test. Even if we can build it, will the financial benefits actually outweigh the costs? Are we going to get a good return on this investment?
Next, we've got to look at the people and the rules. Operational feasibility is so important because a brilliant system that nobody actually uses is a total failure. It asks, is this going to fit with how we already work? Will people actually use it, or are we going to face a ton of resistance? Then there's legal feasibility, and this one's non-negotiable. Does this project follow all the laws, from data privacy rules to industry regulations? This is the hurdle that keeps the company out of some serious legal trouble. And the final 2 hurdles look at time and the bigger picture. Schedule feasibility is pretty straightforward, but it's so critical. Can we get this done by the deadline? A project that's a year late can be just as bad as one that fails completely, maybe missing a huge market opportunity. And finally, there's social feasibility, which is becoming more and more important. We have to ask, will this project have a positive impact on our community, our customers, and the environment? Or are we creating some unintended negative consequences that could really hurt our reputation?
Now, at the very heart of that economic hurdle we talked about is a classic balancing act, the cost-benefit analysis. This is the moment where the team has to be brutally honest about what this project is really going to cost versus what it's really going to deliver.
And this illustrates that balancing act perfectly. On the left side of the scale, you have all the costs, and not just the initial price tag, but the ongoing operating costs too, like maintenance and support. But on the right, you've got the benefits. Some of those are tangible, things you can count, like more sales, but others are intangible, like a better company reputation or helping your team make smarter decisions, and those are just as valuable.
So, once all 6 of those hurdles have been cleared and the costs have been weighed against the benefits, all of this information gets pulled together. It's not just a big pile of research. It gets funneled into a clear, actionable document that leads directly to the final decision.
And that key deliverable is called the Feasibility Study Document, or FSD for short. Its job is really simple. summarize everything we've learned, and provide a very clear recommendation to management about what they should do next.
The whole process ends with this clear three-step verdict. First, that feasibility study document gets delivered. Second, it makes a clear recommendation. And finally, with all this analysis in hand, the leadership team is actually empowered to make the final call.
And that decision usually falls into one of three buckets. They can approve the project, give it the green light. They might decide to modify it, maybe scale it back a bit, or change the approach to make it more feasible. Or they can just reject the projects entirely, saving the company from pouring good money after a bad idea.
So there you have it. That's the real power of the feasibility study. It's a framework for making smart decisions that protects a company's most valuable resources, its time and its money. Which leaves me with one final question for you to chew on. What's one project you've seen, in your work or just out in the world, that you think desperately needed one of these?